Nobody gets you ready for Utah football more than the KSL Sports Zone.
Ready?
The regular season comes to an end for Kyle Whittingham and the Utes as they hit the road for a battle against Kansas. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time to talk some Utah football with the man who covers them. Go ahead, Christian.
Covering the Utes better than anyone else. This is Ute Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hello, Steve. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, fellas. How we doing?
I'm doing miserable, Steve. The College Football Playoff Committee ruins my week. Not really. I'm not that bothered by it. But how do you think Utah fans are actually treating this round of college football playoff rankings? And maybe not the last week, but just this year. Do Utah fans really feel like this is a team that should be in?
Yeah. I think Utah fans are really believe in this team. And obviously, you lose the two most important games on your schedule. That's tough, right? You lose to Texas Tech. You lose to BYU. And we know what that BYU means to this fan base and to the other fan base as well, just what it means to the state. But the way that Utah has been able to perform in the 9 other games, it's been really impressive. And I think with the way that they've been able to dominate, add a couple quality wins, against an Arizona State and against the Cincinnati and obviously Baylor, Kansas State haven't lived up to the preseason hype and expectations, but to add those 2 wins was pretty significant. And I think, Utah, had they done enough to, for sure have an opportunity at the playoff, I don't think any Utah fan feels like that, but I do think fans feel like this is a team that is worthy of a shot if they do get it. And I think with the talent on this team, that Utah would give the playoff a pretty good run for its money. And with the offense, the way that it's performed, and you've got some defensive issues that you're working through. Obviously, those things have to be addressed this week. But I think the fan base has really bought into this team and what they're about. And with Jason Beck coordinating the offense and having it humming on all cylinders, I think Utah fans would really embrace the opportunity, just like any other program, any other fan base, but would really buy into and believe that Utah is worthy of a playoff bid.
We talked to you about it really all season long, but before the season, the big story in my mind was going to be, how does Jason Beck's offense fit with Kyle Whittingham's philosophy? Because in the past, the fit between OC and head coach has been clunky. Excuse me. I think it's safe to say that Beck's offense works with the philosophy. So my question to you is, why has it worked so well?
Well, it's a perfect marriage of what Jason Beck has done, with his offense centered around the option run attack. And, with what Utah had in place with their offensive line, with the culture and brand of football that Kyle Whittingham wants, it really has been the perfect marriage of, scheme, personnel, and culture. And it's really allowed this run game to thrive. And when you have a dynamic quarterback like Utah does in Devin Dampier and in Bird Ficklin, he's added another dynamic element. And then you've got this rushing attack running behind this offensive line powered by 2 potential first-round draft picks. That's really, what's allowed it to thrive as much as it has. And it comes down to the players executing. And Dev has done a pretty good job throughout the season of executing what he's asked to and really elevating his level of play. All off season, the questions around Dampier centered around, is he going to be able to make the transition to the Big 12? How is he going to perform as a passer? And early on it looked like Utah was playing it pretty safe with a lot of check down stuff, a lot of screens, a lot of things behind the line of scrimmage to sort of inflate that completion percentage. But I think that was all part of the building his confidence up, because now you look at his pass distribution and 23% of his attempts are going deep, and he just completed 4 deep passes against Kansas State. You go back to Baylor, there was a couple deep passes there as well. And he's starting to round out his game as a passer. Obviously, the numbers still don't speak to a highly prolific passing attack. But I think what I'm getting at is Dev has done a lot to improve his weaknesses as a passer to help provide balance, which has been the biggest key for this rushing attack, to preserve its efficiency and its explosiveness. Teams haven't been able to just load up against the run because Dev has done enough to, make teams respect the passing game. And I think that's been really key. So, there's a lot of things going into what's allowed this offense to thrive this season, but really it's just been a perfect marriage of schematics, personnel, and culture.
Do you think it will be replicable next season with Jason Beck at the helm, or do you think this has to do with the fact that they have 2 first-round draft picks on the offensive line? They've got 2 quarterbacks when generally most teams truly don't have one. How often are they going to be able to have a competitive or dangerous offense?
Yeah, I think this is replicable, right? As long as you've got a quarterback that you believe in. Bird Ficklin, right, he's obviously proven himself to be a pretty dynamic athlete and quarterback, right? We saw him get the start against Colorado, and he looked great. But, you go back to his recruiting profile, and it wasn't the most impressive. It's not like he was a huge, significant win. And what I'm saying is you can find dynamic quarterbacks at the high school level to come in and kind of fill that similar role. So, regardless of whether Utah brings back, both Dev and Bird or not, Utah is going to be able to keep recruiting, dynamic quarterbacks to that position to keep it, to have that sort of presence beyond just your primary starter. But in terms, once you get past that quarterback spot, obviously the big question mark is going to center around the offensive line. And with Spencer Fano, he's a lock to be a first-round pick. I think everybody understands that. Everybody encourages him to go to the NFL. But with Caleb Lomu, it's not as sure a thing for him, being a first-round pick. And I think he's sort of in this position where, he's got really good draft stock where he's on the borderline. He's a fringe first-round draft pick. But if Utah and Caleb if he comes back next year, I think that would be a significant boost for the offensive line, because if he doesn't, you're going to have to replace all 5 starters. And that's a tall order, even for, Jim Harding and what he's done with that offensive line group. He's recruited really well to build the depth and then hold on to the depth. So even though they're going to have to replace all 5 starters, they've had guys in that room for 2-3 years that have worked in the system. And I think there's obviously going to be a drop-off, but they'll be able to pick up, where this group left off in some sense. And if they can bring back Caleb Lomu, that's going to really allow that group to kind of get off to a good start, to allow this offense to continue to, duplicate itself. Obviously, there's going to have to be some tweaks and adjustments as defenses, count for it, and they get an off season to prepare for, Beck's offense next year. But yeah, this is absolutely, the sort of offense that you can repeat, that you can do year in and year out, as long as you continue to, address your needs personnel-wise to fit what you want schematically.
Do they have enough dough to keep both quarterbacks? And if they do, is that a smart allocation of resources to invest that much at that position?
Yeah, that's been a hot topic for both quarterbacks. And from what I've gathered, I do believe that there will be enough money to keep both. But with that, you do have the question of, is that a truly good investment? We know that Utah could certainly use help at other positions. You're going to have to replace, like we said, offensive line. You probably want to have some money for an offensive lineman in the event that you have to replace Fano and Lomu, right? And so this is going to be an interesting storyline to follow. Is is these two quarterbacks. And, obviously they clearly have a great relationship. They clearly work well together, and right now it's humming and it's clicking on all cylinders, and things are great. But we know the quarterback position and what it is, right? These guys are prideful. They're competitive. They want the spotlight. They want to be the guy. And so that's going to be kind of the big question in my eyes is can Utah, can Jason Beck convince these two to run it back for another year together? And will those two buy into a similar year like this year? Obviously, you're going to probably expand Bird's role even beyond what it's been this month. And that's going to be interesting. But there will be enough money for Utah to hold both if both decide that they want to come back.
What's going on with Kyle Whittingham? What was your read after the game? Obviously very emotional from Whit. How do you think that differed from what we'd seen in the past, and what do you expect to hear or see after this Kansas game?
Yeah, that's an interesting one for sure with Whit. Going back to his press conference Saturday night, just that emotion. I can't recall the last time I've seen him get choked up like that. Talking about Rice Eccles and the seniors getting their last opportunity. It was kind of a unique sequence there of what he was talking about and when the emotion hit. And I think, it's very easy to read into that. And, so I think we're kind of in this interesting place because I've had a lot of conversations lately, and, there's still a pretty strong belief that Kyle doesn't necessarily want to hang it up, that he wants to come back for another year. Hut there's been this long-standing understanding, like we know where Kyle is at and in his career. And he's talked about not wanting to coach forever. And last year he talked about not wanting to leave the program on such a sour note. He couldn't go out last year on a 5-7 record that included a 7-game losing streak. So we know that he wants to leave the program in better shape than what we thought he would last year, right? And I think it's going to be interesting. I don't anticipate this sort of thing lingering for too long. If you remember last year, we got an announcement that he was coming back, I think midway through December. I would anticipate probably something pretty similar to this year. But yeah, as we get closer and closer to the end of the season, you're starting to hear more and more chatter from both ends of the spectrum of Kyle retiring or Kyle coming back, and it's just we'll have to wait and see. But I would anticipate that we see something in the next couple of weeks that kind of that obviously makes it known what his plans are for next year.
All right, Steve, I'm gonna give you a number, and I want you to guess what this number is. Okay?
It's a phone number.
No.
Oh.
It's a 3-digit number. All right. 227. Any idea?
227. Ooh, no idea.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's kind of a random number. It is the Ken Pom ranking of Cal Poly after beating Utah. What?
Yeah.
I mean, Grand Canyon. I looked up their Ken Pom. It's like 94. I mean, Grand Canyon.
Yep.
They're a good
decent basketball program.
It's a good program.
Yeah.
But Cal Poly is not.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what can we expect from this college basketball season, Steve?
Well, looks like we've talked about it, right? This is a complete tear down to the studs type of rebuild for Alex Jensen. I just don't think we realized how far down into those studs Alex Jensen and this program we're going to be starting from. This is starting from ground zero and having to build it, all the way up. This is going to be a process. And watching the team last night taking on Grand Canyon, it's obviously Grand Canyon, very good program. They've had a lot of success. They just accepted a bid to transition to the Mountain West Conference, which is a very competitive basketball league in its own right. But we know that that the Big 12 is just a whole nother beast. And watching this team struggle against a Grand Canyon team that honestly looked bigger, looked more athletic, and just played, more sound on both ends of the floor. It's really discouraging to see this from Utah and Alex Jensen, and with that, Alex has made it clear that this is going to be a process, that his focus is on being better at the end of the season, and that's going to be his goal, and his mentality all year long is improvement. And so I think, I didn't anticipate it being this rough to start. Utah's got a lot of things that they've got to clean up and tighten up, specifically on that defensive side of the floor. But this is going to be a long year, and I do know that Utah and Alex still have the resources, going into next off season, which is crazy. We're 7 games in, and I'm already talking about what's on the horizon for next off season. But I know that Alex, he's going to have the resources to add to this roster some more significant pieces to help kind of build this team out. And this has sort of been the idea, the plan for Alex, is to get in year one, lay the foundation of his brand, his culture, his identity, and then build on it from there. But yeah, this is I think we're in for a pretty long season for running YouTubes.
Steve, thank you very much. What's your Thanksgiving plan? Are you traveling today, or are you leaving tomorrow?
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't leave tomorrow. The game's at 10.
Well,
Or
Friday.
no, Friday.
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
I was. You leaving tomorrow or Friday? You couldn't leave Friday.
Yeah. I'm actually leaving tonight, so I didn't get to book my flight till later, and that was all they had. So I've got a Wednesday night flight. So we're prepping a little mini Thanksgiving dinner, me, Kendra, and Miles. I've got the turkey on the smoker, and we'll have some light fixings and stuff, and then I'll be on my flight, and I'll find somewhere to eat in Kansas City tomorrow. And then we've got the game Friday, and that's going to be certainly an interesting one for sure.
In all seriousness, the league sending Utah on the road 2 years in a row to play a Friday game after Thanksgiving is garbage. Like, it's garbage for the players and the staff and everybody. That sucks.
Yep, it's pretty tough. It's not fun leaving the family behind on Thanksgiving week. It sucks. But, this is the business we chose.
Indeed it is. Thank you, Steve. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep, appreciate you guys.
All right, there you go. Steve Bartle, our good friend, covers the for KSLSports.com.
He owed us 2 of those.
All right, stay tuned. Jake and Ben. Let's give away some tickets. It is a Wednesday after all. Win Ticket Wednesday, caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. We're hooking you up with 2 tickets to go see Nate Bargatze, which I said Bargatze yesterday, but I heard on the ad Bargatze. So I'm going with that. The Big Dumb Eyes Tour at Delta Center, December 4th through the 6th. Tickets on sale now at SeatGeek.com or simply be the 12th caller, 801-575-ZONE.
I disagree with a lot of what Steve said.
In regards to?
Well, maybe the approach to Utah basketball. I don't think you can rebuild anything.
In college basketball, not really.
There's no reason to rebuild. Now, and Steve's not saying that. Steve's saying that's what the approach is being taken by Alex Jensen. I don't know if that's what you need to do. In fact, I wonder if it's the opposite. You need to be as flashy as quickly as possible and then hope that creates a culture of flashiness, a la Deion Sanders in Colorado. Now, that didn't work for Deion at Colorado, but I do think you need to rebuild a little bit more in college football than you do basketball, certainly.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have What You Got Wednesday coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.